And good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. It's Thursday afternoon, so it's only just time for Deering Live with myself, Jamie, and young David Banjowski on the other side of me. How you doing, Dave?
All right, I'm doing well.
Very good, very good. We'll jump in real quick because we've got a very, very special, one of our favorite guests today. But before we do that, just want to talk real quick. We are on deeringbanjos.com. We're running a Halloween sale, 30% off select items. Go ahead, go to deeringbanjos.com, click the banner at the bottom as it comes up, and you'll be taken to an assortment of goodies to keep your spooky moods ready for Halloween. Try that. I just made that up. I just made that on the fly. That's what I do.
Styling. There you
go. So we're going to talk to Kristen today. I don't need to do a reveal, but you were just at IBMA, and so I think we're going to talk about IBMA. We're going to talk about banjo camps. We're going to talk about up the neck backup playing. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. Is there anything else I missed off that list?
New record this year that her and her husband Wayne put out, and some other stops the Grascals are making, and whatever else we get into. Yeah,
that's right. So no longer is she the 5-time IBMA Banjo Player of the Year award winner. She is now the 6-time IBMA Banjo Player of the Year award winner. Please welcome Miss Kristin Scott Benson.
Hey guys.
Hey Kristin, how are you?
I'm doing good. You're awfully kind.
I just kind of freestyled that one, but it's from the heart. See? Mm-hmm. See? Sorry to have missed you this year at IBMA. I couldn't make it, but I hear it was a wonderful time, not least because of the congratulations owed to you for the award. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was exciting.
Dave was there. Dave witnessed the whole thing.
Yeah, it's great to see win it again, and you're right up there. You and I was trying to count all the times you won it.
Oh, I know this. One of my students just told me Jim Mills.
Jim Mills,
are tied.
You're tied. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Good company there.
Yeah.
There you go. Some good voting to happen next year for sure.
That's right. But I was so glad that some of the Deering folks were there. I gave a shout out. You know, I think an enormous component to a musician's just everything is the instrument that they're playing. I've been playing this banjo exclusively we figured up about 1.5 years now. So I feel like Deering is a huge part of everything that I'm doing, because every day when I get the banjo out of the case, it's this Deering Golden Wreath. So I really appreciate you guys.
Oh, thanks so much.
Pleasure's all ours, and thank you for everything you do. It's just a real pleasure working with you, and it's easy. It's easy when it's fun, right?
That's right. So, it's easy to play a banjo when you love it, right? And and that's the reason I've been so reluctant for endorsements for so many years. I just didn't want to give up playing my old one, and didn't necessarily know if there was a banjo out there that I could be happy with. But you coaxed me with a trip to Jens Kruger's house to try out banjos, and who says no to that, right? And I just fell in love with this one. And like I said, since I got it back from you guys, I have minus one show that we talked about where there was a mishap. I've played it 100% of the time. So I'm really impressed with it. And it's easy to endorse it and mean it when you really believe it's a great instrument.
Thank you. That's all we can ask for. Mm-hmm. It means we're doing something right.
That's right.
It's tradition for Deering Live. Do you want to play us a little something to get into the show?
I sure can. I wish I remembered what I had played previously, because I have such a rut on this kind of thing. I always want to play something slow to start, something not fast. So I don't remember what I had done. Let's get in tune first. Make the self-tuning banjo. Deering.
No, you know what?
Come up with that.
I know a pretty reputable company that tried doing that with guitars. It didn't work out so well.
Seriously?
Oh yeah.
It's been tried?
Oh yeah. Yeah, like robot tuners on the back. It wasn't a good look.
Yeah, I don't see how it could work. Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't.
I'll just play something.
Yeah.
Just as long as it's not too fast, that makes it a great first song. So how about Goodbye Eliza Jane? You guys know that tune?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah, the banjo sounds better than I'm playing it right now. I will definitely go with that.
How do you come up with playing something like in this situation when you're playing solo and you generally don't play a lot of solo stuff? How do you go? How do you kind of decide what to do and not to put too much like pressure on yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question and something I should think a lot more about because what inevitably happens is, if you're Yins or you're Bela or Noam or some of those guys, they're constantly putting themselves in different situations. And a lot of those situations may be them playing alone. And for me, I'm always in the safety of a bluegrass band, even if I'm doing different things, playing with different groups or filling in or recording. It's always in a band situation. So the problem is, I just haven't really put a lot of thought into what to do, at a time like this where it's just the banjo by itself. And since I'm primarily a banjo traditional player, I'm just probably going to play some Scruggsy type tunes and you can imagine the band behind me. But really, I always feel this way after, something like this. Like I need to work up some stuff and I have some things, but nothing that I would be ready to play. And the tunes I write, unfortunately, tend to be very band dependent. For instance, like it's wrong key, but that's a pretty song, but it's still band dependent. So it's not straight ahead bluegrass. It's not that it always has to be something straight ahead and traditional, especially when I write it tends not to be, but it always seems to be very band dependent. And so it's a bit of a fish out of water anytime, I'm doing this sort of thing. I love to talk about banjos, but I like to play in full band settings
Sure.
because it's very exposed if you're not used to it.
Right. Do you have a tendency to think you should play slower things when you're playing solo to let it ring out and fill out the sound versus playing something kind of hard driving that has that short
I don't know. I think the main thing is just to play well, which I also honestly just don't do when you're talking. See, look, Earl Scruggs set the template. Banjo players can be on the side. We don't have to smile. We don't have to talk. And we never have to interact except to play the banjo, right? And seriously, so you put a banjo player who never MCs or anything in this situation, and it's a lot different, right? But man, there's nothing like playing straight ahead banjo in a bluegrass band.
Right.
I mean, then it's like the banjo is at the center of it, and it feels good and safe and familiar, and that's what I love, and that's what I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I'm thinking on your question, maybe a Scruggs tune like. That's still hard driving and stuff, but that may be better than. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah, they both sound great, but maybe is it because down the neck, a lot of it to kind of to the layman sounds a little more of the same, and when you move up the neck.
Hold on just a sec.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
when you move up the neck, the melody is a little more obvious.
Yeah, I think too, to the layman, and I mean even non-banjo players maybe more so than people who love the banjo, but I think melodic tunes are really ideal for that. Like if somebody says, "Hey, you play the banjo, play a song for me." I'll do something like Blackberry Blossom or even like Blackbird. Something they would know. Let's see. I wouldn't do this one. There it is. Something like that would be good if you're just going to play on something, because this means nothing to them. Which is where I live and breathe, so you have to kind of cater it, I guess, to the audience that is right in front of you. And that could be one person in your living room, but that's what we all have.
Yeah. And then kind of one of your topics, like you're playing Blackbird right there, and I think, you haven't played it a bit and you kind of were figuring it out on the spot. Where do you kind of go psychologically right there to try to figure it out? Is there a spot so you don't just get overly flustered? You stay in the zone and you got it right there.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, what I was thinking about right then, I remembered that it had the ascending and descending lines. So it was going to go from here to here, and there was that's why I like things like that. I'm a huge sucker for ascending and descending lines because of the tension it creates. Like, this sounds great, right? But this sounds way better. Oops. There's just something has to happen now. We're here. You don't necessarily need anything else, and man, the Beatles were great at devices like that, where it just sounds easy on the ears, but if you actually listen to them, they're doing some really interesting things. And so so what I was thinking of was, okay, what is that line? There it is. I think that's it.
Yeah.
But that kind of tune is good to play for people, anything that they recognize.
Right. Definitely. Well, we're going to kind of focus today on some up the neck backup tutorials. Do you want to kind of dive into that when you're playing? So I guess real generally, like when you're playing in a straight ahead bluegrass band, when do you start going up the neck versus staying like down? Doing a rolling thing in a more open position, or just doing kind of the offbeat. Down the neck. When do you make that shift up the neck?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the first part of understanding your role, the job, the ROLE of your being inside a band, I think is to ask those kinds of questions first, so that you're not just randomly playing at different times. But I remind students, because I teach all the time, and I remind them that we play backup about 90% of the time, right? So you spend 90% of your time learning all these solos, but you only get the solo maybe 20 seconds a song, and or maybe not at all even. So we've got to be good backup players. And I developed this system for down the neck, low rolling backup, which is our default setting as bluegrass banjo players today. And the system worked well, meaning that just having a format, like a leveled approach, seemed to help people with the low stuff. So I tried to do a watered down version of that for up the neck, but and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. But to answer your first question, though, generally you get one shot at that. Now, if you're flat and Scruggs, Earl played a ton of up the neck backup because it was his band, and they didn't emphasize the fiddle a lot, and I'm sorry, the mandolin a lot. So it was mainly banjo fiddle, and Earl sang on a lot of the choruses, so he got a lot of verses to back up because he sang on the chorus. But like if you listen to their albums, the banjo backup is just as crucial as Lester's lead vocal. I mean, his banjo playing, it's only appropriate that they were co-billed because the banjo was just so prominent. Now, that isn't the case for us in most bands. So generally, you're only going to get one shot at an up the neck backup place. So it may be one verse or one chorus. So I tell people the default setting is just kind of low rolling plain backup like this, like so that's the default setting where we spend most of our time. And then if it is your turn to back that verse up, we get to play fills. So then it may be like... So that's a busier low backup. And that is, songs tend to be in band settings. And even in jams, there's a lot of communication between the people in jams where if the mandolin player starts playing fills, the fiddle player will probably start chopping, right? So just with eye contact, you can arrange on the spot. But the whole idea is that I'm not going to be going... if the mandolin is playing fills, probably it's one or the other. So I'd be doing more of the... So you don't want to go up the neck until it is definitely your turn to do it. And you typically don't want to do that on the first verse. So that's the very long answer to say you get to do it one verse or chorus per song generally. And you usually don't start out that way, but sometimes you do. It depends on the, if it's a swingy song like... Especially a key like that where that's C, we can definitely play it down here, but or F, you're up the neck way more when you're not just in G.
And we have a listener of yours is saying my backup tends to be too much like melody. How do you kind of, especially when you go up the neck? How do you kind of do that without?
Well, it's actually harder to stay off the melody down the neck. Okay. But the keys to that, I feel like a physician. I've treated a lot of patients I've had a lot of students who had that problem. And one thing that it does for you when you have a tendency to jump on melody when you're playing backup is if you hit a melody note, it's like you derail and now you're just stuck on the brake a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the idea, and this is for the lower stuff, is to focus on the chords, not the melody. And I have a little formula where I talk about the root note and the rest, and then the forward roll and the reverse. So you just basically plug this formula in, and it's all chord dependent. It has nothing to do with the melody. So that's not to say that if you're playing a root note in C, the melody may be on that C, but it could also be the E, it could be the G, it could be an A, right? Moving somewhere else. So you don't care though. You're going to follow this formula of root note rest, forward roll, and then a reverse. And then you're going to do it in C, and then the D. And so what that makes you do is start thinking a little bit more like a guitar player or a mandolin player. You know, they're just chopping, they're playing rhythm. The melody means nothing to them. It's how long am I in each chord. So the way to combat that tendency of playing melody or too melody driven content, and sometimes it's involuntary, you know, it's like people just, they have to run with it once they get that in their mind. It's just to think of it as more chord-based, with root notes being emphasized regardless of what the melody does. And that little formula that I gave can really help with that. Now, once we move up the neck, people tend to struggle playing up the neck melodies anyway. So it's much less of a problem when you're playing up the neck, I think.
So if we were playing, what are some standard, not licks really, I guess licks, but techniques that you're using when you go up the neck?
Yeah.
You know, if it's just like hanging on a G chord for what would you do up there?
Well, you know, I kind of try to mirror the down the neck approach where you had that formula that you used. So I kind of created just a real simple levelized approach to up the neck as well. And what you'll find, whether it's playing lead solos or playing backup, it's greatly watered down. There's just less we do up here to a large degree. You know, down low you may go, and then the equivalent of that for up the neck was he played. See, that's way less intricate. That's just a bunch of forward rolls and volume out and breakdown rolls over chords versus you didn't really hear any of that there. And then it goes to C. You know, and it's just so it's going to be simpler and easier to get, actually, if you're good moving your chords around. So that leads us to the heart of what we're going to talk about tonight with the up the neck backup. And that is, people tend to know the licks and know the fills. And one reason why is because they can hear them. When you listen on a record, the fills, and that's just the licks that are played in the holes there, a lot of times they're mixed higher, so you can hear it. Even if they're not, the vocal, we're assuming, has stopped for a second, so it's easier to hear what the banjo's doing. So people just try to string those licks together, and that's an understandable attempt at getting at it. So what I heard in backup, even if people weren't playing melody, you know, they knew this. They didn't know the skeleton, the underlying fabric of it all. So I start with that up the neck. So if we begin with a real simple roll, the roll is going to be, and then you just loop that. Okay, and it'll make more sense when I add the left hand, but I encourage students just to play the roll open like that, just to get comfortable with it. Notice there's no fifth string in this roll. And that's intentional so that it's going to sound good in E or F or wherever you are. just add an F-shaped G to that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we're playing up the neck, we for sure want to be away from the bridge. We don't want this. Okay, maybe you do. It's an exception, though, if you do. Okay, so then the next step is just to play it in C and D as well, because that's our 1, 4, and 5. Then we're going to move it up to D. Okay, and then back to G. Now remember, slides are your friends. So if I'm playing Blue Ridge Cabin Home, I would have... Okay, two things to say about that. So we have this simple roll. And notice it never changed. So the roll is the same. And this is the fabric that the licks sit on. All of those licks that you like. That's not the heart of backup up the neck. You got to be able to roll and not interfere with what the person's singing. So once you're good at just playing the roll in F shapes, pay attention especially to the rest at the end of the phrase, right here. It's almost like gravity. Everybody wants to hit this. It is universal. They want that last string in. Well, that messes up your ability to slide cleanly. And we're making big shifts, so we need a rest at the end so we can make our big shift. Slide. See, that was easy. I could make that big shift because I left the rest, but it wasn't like this. Right? Where are you going to hit that first string? You're not going to make it. So just leave it as a rest. All right. So then once people can handle that, I just make sure that they can strum through the F shape and D shape of the 1, 4, and 5. So we have F shaped G, D shaped G, F shaped C, D shaped C, F shaped D, D shaped D, and then back to your G. Okay, so now the only thing that's going to change, the roll's still the same. So nothing changed, but we're going to slide in between measures and split the roll between the two shapes. Slide, rest, okay? And I can go back to G, I can go to C at that point. When that rest happens, I am free to go to any chord I need it to be. Okay, but in the case of Blue Ridge Cabin Home, which is a great sample song, I will go to C. So let me try that. Slide, rest, rest, big slide, okay, and then that is it. The whole song just repeats that pattern. So what would it sound like if this is all you did? Really solid up the neck backup. All it requires, it's the same roll over and over. All it requires is some dexterity to shift between the F shapes and D shapes. And if that isn't there yet, stick with the F shapes. So once you have your bearings there, you are playing up the neck backup. It's you're a valid up the neck player, and that's way better than doing this. and just playing all over the place. That's like the equivalent. I like to think of this. Think of that as our strum or our chop. That's just what we do to support. And then you just grow it and you change things just one little thing at a time until it gets a little more interesting. Okay, so just as a recap, we played our open roll.
We have a person in the chat asking to go over that roll. Can you explain that roll a little bit?
You bet. So it's all strings 1, 2, 3, and 4, no fifth string at all, and it's a 4 and a rest. So think of that, if you're in an F shape, that's your root note. Okay, so you want to state that, and then you want to go, you want that breath, right? So there's your root. Now you're going to play a forward roll back to the 4th. Okay, so that's measure 1. 1, 3, 2, 1, 4. I'm trying to envision him writing this down, so I want to give him time. So that's 4, 1, 3, 2, 1, 4. Okay, there's your rest. Now, if you're shifting, that's when you're gonna, okay? But you don't have to. You can stay put. So then the second measure would be 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 4 with a rest. Okay, so measure 2 is 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 4, rest. Okay? I'll say it one time. 4, 1, 3, 2, 1, 4, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 4. All right, so that's a recap of the roll. Then we did it in all F shapes over the tune Blue Ridge Cabin Home. Then we added a slide to the D shape. Slide. New chord. Slide. Rest. Rest. Okay, we're going to add one more nuance to it.
That slid note is on the 4th string, right?
The what?
That note you're sliding on is on the 4th string.
The 4th. Yeah, it just sounds so big, you know. Earl was the best at that, making those 4th string slides. They sounded so big, right? So yeah, the slides have been on the 4th. So now we're going to add one nuance.
Okay.
And this is just a little single string thing that certainly isn't essential, so you don't have to do it, but it works great only in a D shape. So if I was going to play the same pattern, okay, instead of 3, 2, 4, I'm going to play thumb, index, thumb, and on this hand the ring drops down. Okay, that one little nuance adds quite a bit actually, but you don't have to do it. Okay, so the second measure becomes okay, so what would that turn into? Okay, so that's good backup now.
And you're bouncing in your chord shapes. You're bouncing essentially from shape-wise, your F shape to a D shape.
That's it. Right? The whole time. That's all it was. Realize, too, if you haven't already, folks, tab can be such a help, but it can also really be a nuisance. If I were to tab this and hand it to people, they could miss that I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm doing that one thing. I did it in G, then I did it in C, and then I did it in D. It's not about 5s and 9s and then 10s and then 14s.
Right.
It's one thing that you learn, and then you just shift it around. And that's an important realization. And I don't think tab is bad for this sort of thing, but I always want to see them doing it before I give tab for it, because, and in fact, when I teach this, I just give it in G. I just write the tab in G, because I want them to not think about 8s and 9, this is not 10, 9, and 8. It's C, So I think you learn it much faster, and I think it inserts itself into your long-term memory much more securely when you actually understand what you're doing. So, with this system, you can really play pretty good up the neck backup on any song. Now, the beauty of this is, the first thing a thoughtful student is going to say, well, Blue Ridge Cabin Home has the same length chords the whole time. And that's true. It's the reason it's so good to practice this stuff. So what do I do if I have a one measure change? Because we have 2 measures of G, C, D, G, and then we do it again. What if it's a one measure? Well, that's the beauty. We have a rest at the end of measure 1. We have a rest at the end of measure 2. So you just split it. So say we're doing Blue Ridge, say we're doing 9-pound hammer. Right, so all I did was... And then you can go back to here, or you could be done with it.
And you chose that D shape because it was the closest to you, as opposed to going way up the neck or doing,
Yeah, that's my go-to, is always what's nearest, what's most convenient. So maybe I take a tune like Love's Like a Flower, let's say. And the only thing I'm going to play on this tune is what we've done. So it's going to be that roll. Maybe I do the single string thing, though. But that's it. Okay, so nothing else is going to get played. Love is Like a Flower. Backup, right? So you can see how what that does for people is give them a foundational fill in the blanks type pattern, and then the licks come on top of that, and it works the same way down the neck. The good news is there's even less to learn up the neck, and there are all kinds of categories. I mean, I try to present this simply, and we spend our whole lives doing it, right? So it's not like you're a Sonny Osborne backup player in 20 minutes. It's a rest of your life pursuit. But I do think by concentrating on the understandably overlooked underlying fabric of backup and just saying, here, just play this. Sometimes just narrowing it down and say, just play this. And then you can start to trickle things in like, that was bad. There's a whole category of those licks, and we could talk about those. I categorize everything. I can't help it. So, these D-shaped licks are all in a box to me, and the foundational one would be Like that's the one that I think it's all built on. And that's a very commonly misplayed lick. It starts on the 5th string, and then you slide. It doesn't matter where you start the slide, but you need to land on the 8 on the 2nd string, which is your G note. So that's your first thing there, and you're way away from the bridge. And then you hit the index again on the 2nd string. So you have thumb, index with a slide, index again. And that really gets people. I've seen it done so many different ways. That's generally what we want. One thing that makes that lick attractive, is it starts on a 5th string and it's open. So if we're here and we want to go back to a G, we're far from it. But if we go, see, we got the open 5th string, and that gives us time to make our shift. So it's easy to even overuse these ones, because just about whatever you've done before, you can play this after it. So it's a real go-to, get you out of a bind kind of lick. But so anyway, it's a 5-2-2. Your little single string thing comes back again. And then you have to decide, it is a speed thing and also a comfortability thing. Most of the time we will double our thumb and then play an index. Thumb, thumb, index. So measure 1 became ready, go, 1. 2, play it again. 1 more time again. If the double thumb is a problem, you can thumb, index, thumb. You can go thumb, index, thumb. And that gets you out of the double thumb. Thumb, index, thumb. Thumb, index, thumb. And then you can decide what to do next. A really universal, if you just do some quarter notes there, then you can go to any chord you need. Right? But there are other things like a real simple quarter note lead in to C could be see how nice that was? But that's going to guide you to C. Okay, where this one, yeah.
Are these little things kind of where you can start to put yourself into your backup playing, and put a little bit of different flavor, maybe in each different song, these little passing tones and
Yeah, I think so. I mean, nothing that I teach early on is anything other than, there's nothing that Scruggs did not play. And even if you're learning a lot of Crowe backup or a lot of Sonny backup, Scruggs played most of that, right? And then you do get into a lot of character when you start studying Crowe and Sonny's backup for sure. But at this point, none of me is in it yet. This is just regurgitating basic Scruggs backup in a way that can be easily transferred to anything. But I do love to play backup. It's my favorite thing for sure. And I love slow songs and I love chords. So I really dig this sort of thing. But this is still just very generic. So yeah, you always identify yourself by what you choose to play. And I guess there is a good bit of identification in that, even if it's reassembling not necessarily original phrases. I mean, in banjo, assembly is a massive component of banjo playing. It's dropping in these licks that, the licks are these chunks. You think in chunks a lot of the time on banjo, and how you assemble that can be greatly associated with you as a player. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the chunks themselves aren't still Scruggs. It's a weird instrument that way. But certainly in backup, you can do a lot of cool things. I mean, you listen to Sonny, and you can tell that so much of the time he was responding to what Bobby's saying, but not always I'm trying to think of the right word, gently, or considerately. That's the word. Like he may play something that is inspired by something Bobby just sang, but it's just all over the place, you know. So he was such a personality. And man, did you ever hear that in his backup playing and his lead playing too? But it was sassy and it was witty and it was fearless. And so yes, backup playing can absolutely be an opportunity to express yourself. But I think you'd probably be moving beyond this sort of thing when that happens.
How would you compare, because you brought up J.D. Crowe's backup playing too? Would you compare his backup playing with Earl Scruggs and you just talked about Sonny Osborne's? So
yeah, well, I get real nervous saying anything like this because I haven't been able to copy any of those guys well, but I can come closer to copying Earl. And that sounds just blasphemous. But of the three, he's the easiest for me to copy because he was the most precise. And he was the most what would be a good word? He was the most concise and the most tempered, I would say, if that makes any sense. And then Crowe had a lot more grease in his playing, I would say. There's more syncopation. It's much less even though he's amazing and you don't necessarily even think of him as being anything other than perfect. There is syncopation in his playing and a lot of, like he loved a lot of bends, you know. He played a lot of greasy stuff. And then Sonny, you move even further away from that, where there's a lot of original ideas coming out. Not just like Crowe, I think, had a lot of Crowe takes on what he had heard from Earl and other players. And then Sonny, you just didn't know what would come out of him. So as you move further away from that real well-defined, clean environment that Scruggs kind of lived in, it gets harder for me. I can always figure it out, but then when I play it back, it just doesn't have the spirit that they have, you know. But those are three just amazing backup players to listen to.
Yeah. We have a viewer who's mentioning, and you kind of went over it, I think, but it says, my biggest challenge up the neck was dealing with fretted strings all the time. And is that mainly you doing that with, that rest that you're talking about as you slide? Is that one of the big ways to, help give yourself a chance to?
Yeah, so I wish I could have a conversation with him. When he said he was struggling with fretted strings all the time, does it just mean playing chords? The left-handness of chords
Maybe,
are
changing,
difficult. Yeah,
maybe it's making chord shapes.
Yeah, right.
It's playing, a slide on, down the neck when you're playing like a lead part.
Yeah, I can understand that. One trick to remember, I think, is that rarely do we put all the fingers down for a chord at the same time. It's kind of like a domino effect. So let me just kind of try to do it in slow motion. This is Fisher, by the way.
Fisher.
Yeah. But if I'm here, now it's important to notice all these fingers came off the strings. They don't leave the vicinity, but the pressure isn't on. So they're close to where they need to be, but they're not pressed down. So only this has pressure on it.
Right.
And then in slow motion, the pinky goes down, then the index goes down, then the middle goes down. So if you could slow that down in real time, it would look like that, a domino effect. You know what? My my pinky did stay down. It wasn't pressed with any intensity, but these are like your railroad spikes. They kind of never leave. But did you see how these were still up at the start?
Yep.
So that might be something to work on, just to realize that you're not moving the entire chord shapes, particularly when some of them have to switch strings. So think of it more as a stay in contact with the string, but maybe don't press it down, and don't think of it as one thing, but rather a domino effect that will come down as needed. Another thing that I really believe in, gosh, we could talk so much. Like, we could talk forever about those D-shaped backup licks, but the chord scale is just, the G major chord scale will transform people's playing, I believe, especially in a backup scenario, quicker than any other thing. And it gets you great at chords. So I think there are some fundamental drills that everybody needs to, speaking to the person who wrote in, some fundamental drills that everyone needs to work on. And some of it is being sure that all 4 fingers can be played. So maybe you just strum all your G's. And that's important.
What do you do to people when they, because a lot of time I know with students of mine, that they can't do that. There's a finger muting something.
Yeah.
It's hard to, without them there to fix it. But how do you tell, what's it something general you can say to kind of...
Yeah, you have to suss it out, and you have to deal with your own hand. Like, everybody's hand is different. They bend differently. But here's the good news. The main reason I want people to be able to do that, and if you're trying to make sure that every note is clear, you just hit it one string at a time. Like, and you just try to figure out what strings are muted and fix it. But here's the good news. If that doesn't go well for you, it's okay. Because the bulk of our playing with chords is going to happen on strings 1, 2, and 3. And even if there's a time we would want the 4th string, if that's hard for you, you don't have to do it. You can work around as long as you've got strings 1, 2, and 3. The main reason you want to be able to strum, even if it isn't clear, is to know which fingers go where, because we never want to do this. Never want to do that, because what if I did need a 4th? I'm over. I'm in a box now. We never want to do this, right? So by doing, even if the chord doesn't sound great, at least you know which finger goes on which string. Now, this can be just as difficult. For some, they're great at this.
Yeah.
But leaving the free finger flying free. That's what I say. You've got to leave the free finger flying free. So if I'm going to pinch 1, 2, and 3, that means that the 4th string finger should be up. And it's just as hard for people to pull fingers up as it is to put them all down sometimes. So you're going to be greatly slowed down moving around if you don't need the 4th string, and it's just like empty baggage, right? It's just weighing you down. So you also want to be able to do this, but with the correct fingers. Never that, right? So maybe I'll stay like that for just a sec, because the angle, I think, is a little better. So this is a great drill. Now notice, right?
The ring finger was up the entire time.
The ring is up the entire time. Well, there I grabbed the bar actually.
Okay.
So with it, but in those F shapes and D shapes. So if you pinched Blue Ridge Cabin Home, it'd be right. So the ring is not down if you're not using it. Well, then do that all with all your C chords. I guess you could grab that one. And then the D's. And then I have a drill where I help people slide up the neck with those, and I have a drill where I help them slide down the neck with those, because it's a different process. Sliding up, you do it differently than sliding down. And if you can just get some basic maneuverability with chords, it really opens up the neck, because now you're not bound to open G stuff, because you lose your open G stuff when you're in F or E or even C, a lot of it goes away. So now you've gained the whole neck in G. You've also gained a lot of information for those other keys that removed your openness. So it's essential, I think, to get good at this. And my experience has said that people get better making, if they're just trying to make the chords well, by pinching than rolling. So all you do is you pinch and you get good at the shifts because it's a grid. It's a repeating grid. You have an F shape, then you go up 2, 4 frets, and you have a D shape, and then you go up 3 frets, and you have a bar shape, and then you go up 2, 4, 5 frets, and you've started over. So I tell everybody FD bar, which means nothing to kids. FDR, they don't know who FDR is. But FD bar gives you the order. So F plus 4, D plus 3 bar, then go up 5 and start again till you run out of room. So once you understand that it's a grid and you can 1, 2, 3 pinch it, then and only then start trying to roll. And once the roll begins to be a part of your playing, then that domino effect on the left hand happens where you're not just thinking, oh, I'm going from here to here. It's got to happen all at the same time. It really doesn't. But, I teach so much and I'm so passionate about trying to help folks. I have like 5 different things that we could talk about right now, and it's so important. But the G major chord scale is so good, and it sounds so good. We could talk about that for days, and it can transform your playing, and it's fun to play because it sounds musical even by itself.
Yeah. One quick question on your open D chord. Do you always play it with your pinky down versus your ring finger on the first string?
Always pinky.
Always, never your ring. I've seen a lot of students doing it, with your ring
like
finger.
This?
Yeah.
No, you've lost all of this. Right, you gotta have a pinky here.
Well, Kristen, we've come to about the top of the hour. We want to get a few more things, and then we want to let you go. But you're so passionate about the banjo, about the instrument and the music. And so you can always feel you have such great lessons and such great tips.
Oh well, thanks. I'm blessed. The students really, a lot of people say, gosh, if you teach a lot, it'll suck your musical soul from your body, and it can, if you let it do that, it can. But I might just have the best students in the world, but they inspire me, because they're still excited about learning, which is how we're supposed to be. And they get excited about, you give them this. And they're just on the moon. Well, I remember learning that and how I felt when I learned that lick and how cool I thought it was. And so I feed off of that. And the more you teach and the better you get at it and the more you're able to help people, if you enjoy seeing people get better and enjoy seeing them enjoy it, then teaching can actually be really encouraging. It doesn't have to be the suck your musical soul from your body experience that so many people say it is.
That's good. I'm glad you've kept a good mind about it.
Yeah.
I want to bring Jamie in. I think he has a question that was sent in somewhere.
Oh,
Jamie, I have a quiz. No, I'm just kidding. What string did I play? No.
First, probably. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? That was awesome. That was really, really cool. First of all, where's Fisher? Is he still there?
He's still here. He's
hey,
just
Fisher.
out of the frame. He's a good boy.
Not his first appearance on Deering Live.
No, he's never far from me. So if I'm around, he's probably going to be.
That's awesome. So I had a couple of questions for you. Chip Haynes, earlier on, is there something that you hear or anything that immediately tells you that this is a great spot for the 6 white horses? Now, I don't know what that means. So you might have to interpret that.
Can he answer back? Is he talking about this one? Is that the lick?
Let's find out. We'll give him a minute to respond. The other question is somewhat related, and you know this guy, and we know this guy, but he emailed me instead of coming into the chat. Mr. Ernie Welch.
Okay.
He says, do you concentrate on tone and timing consciously, or has it just come from your years of playing and experience?
Yeah, I think tone and timing, the way to make that happen, and there are so many good examples of this, like the quality of your pull-offs, or anytime there's a habit that you wish was better, as soon as you start thinking about the song or the solo, it goes away. So tone and timing are such essentials that you have to work on tone and timing totally by themselves. So that means you're not going to work on your timing, playing a... That's not a good lick to work on your timing, because you're going to think about the lick. You want to do the lick, you want it to be something like backup. So the idea is to do something that's so simple that you can consciously think of tone and timing, maybe just one at a time actually, but you just do that so much. And I remember standing in front of a mirror, and just... and just aiming for the accuracy and the evenness. I was always such a freak about evenness. I would just do that forever. And so the idea is that you do it so much, thinking only about that then when you're playing other things and your mind is elsewhere, it's just how you play.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Perfect. Chip Haynes has responded, yes. That is the lick he was...
That's what I was thinking. So... I think that works great on swingy type stuff. So like if you were playing backup to Foggy Mountain Special, the backup we've played tonight would be great for that. We did this kind of fill. We talked about that one being good. You have the high drawer. That's what I call it, like the... You have those. Well, this is another type fill, and it's the F-shaped. It can work in any chord, but it's an F-shaped lick, and it works great for this. So, see how good that was? And there are a few ways you can do that, but that's one way. Another way would be more single strings so that you can alternate if the doubles get you, like... That still gets the point across without the pinches. And if your right hand gives you trouble doubling, then this will help. See, that was back to back, alternating a couple times, and either will work. So I think swingy scenarios are great for that lick, and also just general of the neck playing. And then the more, like if you're an F, the more you're going to think that way automatically. Like if it was Banks of the Ohio in F, such a happy lick for such a brutal murderous song. That's the bluegrass way, but I think it gets more and more convenient once you leave your regular keys.
I like that answer. That's awesome, Chip. I hope that helps. Question for you from me, really. I was on the phone this morning with Hank Smith, who you probably know from Blue Ridge, and I think Dave was going to bring up Blue Ridge as well. But I hear all the time comments about how good of a teacher you are. There's people in the chat today talking about how good of a teacher you are, and it's really natural the way you approach things, and it makes it just so clear to follow and understand. It's great. Do you have a preference on which? Are you a performer first and then a teacher, or do you consider yourself a teacher? Is there one that you like more than the other? I'm curious because you're very passionate about both.
I was reluctant to ever start teaching. I didn't want to do it. And it's definitely something you get better at with experience. I shudder to think about the early students and how much better I would be if I could be with that student again. I could probably help him or her a lot better. But I would say I still, this is exactly what it is. I have a very clear answer. So I still like playing and performing better if I'm relaxed, but I'm much more confident as a teacher than a player. So there's that rub where if I'm relaxed, I have terrible stage fright, even doing this kind of thing, sometimes even heightened when I'm talking a lot. But once we started into the teaching part, I relaxed. But that front part, so relaxed in performing is my favorite. But if I'm going to be nervous, which is quite possible, then that's a real bummer, So I would say I still prefer, playing in a band for sure. But I think a lot better teacher than I am a player.
It's good to know.
Yeah.
Well, it's just I hear it.
Thank
all
you.
the
I feel
time.
like I should pay you for that. That's got to be worth some
Just trade
therapy.
endorsements.
Yeah, that's got to be some therapy money there or something.
It comes across well, and a lot of people have said the exact same thing. I wouldn't call myself a banjo player at all, so I've never had the privilege of being in a class or anything like that. But certainly Hank speaks very highly, as does everybody else, and it's
good guy.
Yeah, no, he is. He's one of the best, and that's what makes up that camp. But Dave, I think you were going to bring up the camp as well a little bit.
How was the camp this year? I was there, a year ago, and I was in your class was the one that stood out to me.
Oh, it's great.
I mean, all the teachers are fantastic, but there was something about it. It was very, you could dial right in what everybody needed, sort of.
Yeah.
Very, very.
Well, that's
very
encouraging. I always am relieved to hear that kind of feedback because you always hope that you're helping folks and figuring out, especially when you have a big class like that, where's everybody at and how can you best help the most people? That's one of the challenges when it's a camp setting. But camp was great this year. We had Greg List with the 4 teachers that the year you were there. I think it was Bayla, Tony, and me with
Ryan.
Adam Larrabee, right? Well, Adam was back and Greg List was there. So there was a lot of incredibly creative, crazy stuff happening musically. And it was super fun. That's like the most stressful and most rewarding week of my year is really how that goes. And I think the campers kind of feel that way too, because they're pushed. I mean, as a camper, you feel exhilarated and excited, but also some pressure, I think, which is not intentional, but I think is inevitably there sometimes. So, but you just leave more excited about the banjo than you are for the whole rest of the year. It's just like this ultimate energizing experience to me.
Yeah, the vibe is really good. You mentioned like pressure, but it's healthy pressure.
It's healthy
not
pressure.
Like a competitive.
Not at all. No. Yeah. And the big concert, by the way, we're talking about Bela Fleck's Blue Ridge Banjo Camp. And Deering always has a presence at this camp. And the teachers are just really world-class instructors. It's not just, I don't think he aims for only great players. I think he aims for players who have a lot of teaching experience. And I think that really helps. Obviously, that's going to make it a better camp. And then the vibe is just so banjo. It's just so positive and so singular. right? And everybody starts your day by just listening to Bela play for an hour and talk an hour, and how can that not be a great way to start the day, right? So it's a really cool experience, and I teach at a lot of camps, and a lot of camps have a lot of great things going on. I think what this one has though is it has Bela, and the group that has kind of started embodying the student population. There's this undercurrent of really wonderful people who are setting the tone and the culture for that camp to make it really inviting and fun for the new people. And I think that's one of the kindest things we can do for one another.
Yeah. Before we go, I want to touch on a few things. You have some concerts with the Graskels coming up that you wanted to mention on here.
Yeah. Well, I just always want to tell people where we're going to be in case they're nearby. This weekend we're in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Next weekend, see, that's my issue. That's all I know. But they can go to graskels.com.
It's on the website.
graskels.com. There you go. And find it out. And then Wayne and I have a special show coming up is December 15th a Thursday? Somebody.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, I have a team right now that can help me with this, but he and I never play.
It's a Friday.
It's a Friday, so it must be
15th is a Friday.
It must be the 14th then. Either December 14th or 15th, Wayne and I are playing this really special show together, which never happens live, in Spartanburg, South Carolina, which is our hometown. And we're going to have Tim Surratt from Balsam Range and Sean Lane from Blue Highway and Darren Aldridge from Brooke and Darren Aldridge. Yeah. So it's going to be a really all-star type band, and it will be a one-of-a-kind because we've never played together before. Wow. And we'll meet up around 4:00, do a sound check, figure out what we're going to do, and then go do it. So it'll be a really fun, interesting show, and people can go to Bluegrass Spartanburg, and find out the details on that. And then a couple of other things for this listening audience that may really be appealing. On November 7th, I'm doing a Banjo Bend Live seminar. Banjo Bend Live, November 7th. That's a Tuesday. And then on December 10th, this will be our third time around. Every year, Ron Block and Bill Evans and I have done a workshop together. And that's happening again on Sunday, December 10th. And they can contact Bill Evans to find out more details about that. Also have a book. I know I've been mentioning it for a while, but it's actually turned in now. With the Hal Leonard Company called 25 Great Bluegrass Banjo Solos. Oh, wow. And that's going to come out. It's a good long write-up on each player and then tab and a recording and a little excerpt on how to play the solo. And the recording is recorded slow. So there's an instructional element to it for sure, and just a nice... I know we can learn about artists, but sometimes I think there's just still value in being able to hold something and have a really nice... bio and pick their brain type interview, and there's 25 of them and they're right here. Let's still value just a collection of information sometimes in that format. I think can be helpful. So look for that as well. That
is coming out. It's not published yet.
It's not published yet. It'll be a Hal Leonard publication.
Oh, cool.
And they can find out on my website and figure out when the release date will be. Hopefully in 24 we'll have it.
We're a Hal Leonard dealer, so we'll make sure.
Nice,
try to get it on their site.
Yeah,
definitely.
I also wrote another book for them called Your First 15 Banjo Lessons, and that one's been out a while, but it has video and a book, and it's super affordable. I mean, you can get it on, well, maybe from you guys, but Amazon I know sells it, so that's a good first step if people are just getting started. Your First 15 Banjo Lessons.
Perfect. Awesome. And you mentioned the concert with you and Wayne. You both put out a recording this past year, Pick Your Poison.
Yeah, that's a first for us. We recorded it during COVID. So, and music is released differently these days. Like used to, an album came out and you eventually heard all the music. Now they do it different. Like the music comes up first as singles, and then near the end of the cycle, the actual album comes out. So we recorded that during COVID, but it just came out this year, and it's done so well for us. I mean, we were just incredibly humbled because we had never done anything together before, and we just have been tickled to death that it's gotten a little bit of attention and people seem to like it. So that's why this show coming up is just going to be another rarity for us, with him being in the band Russell Moore and Third Time Out, and me playing with the Graskels, and we just don't want to do a lot of things when we're off that would, and also the band schedules keep us obligated, right. So it's hard to commit. This particular date was just, it was okay to commit to it. There was no way either band had anything going on, and they asked, and we were like, yeah, we can actually do that. Luckily, we have a lot of friends who are just amazing musicians, so we can bring them in and just kind of figure it out as we go that night.
Awesome.
That
sounds like cool. A great show.
Yeah, for those, I can throw this up. I think it's the part of the Spartanburg Philharmonic, right?
It is. The umbrella foundation is Spartanburg Philharmonic. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
There we go.
I need to visit that website.
Should. It's a wonderful picture of Wayne and yourself. Pricing, timing, address, everything you could possibly need to get information. So if you're in the area, go see Kristen and Wayne and friends.
There you go.
There we go. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, you guys are so good. Thanks.
And it's been a real pleasure. But thank you for your insights. Fisher, thank you for everything you contributed to the show.
He's my therapy dog. And he just needs to be on stage with me, and I just quit playing if I get nervous and rub him for a little while, and then re-engage at that point. But seriously, I can't thank you guys enough for this banjo. I truly do love it, and it just operates perfectly in the environment that I'm in, and I can't believe that I love a brand new banjo the way I love this one. So I'm just tickled to death.
Awesome.
That's so great.
That makes us happy. We're doing the right things, and we're very, very happy to hear that. That is, if we don't get that bit right, then we don't really have a company, right? We should be getting the banjo making thing pretty good at this point in time.
There you go.
There we go. But thank you for, like I said at the beginning, for everything that you do. Congratulations again for your IBMA Banjo Player of the Year Award 2023.
Yeah.
And we're going to have an award winner hopefully play us a little ditty to get out of here.
Yeah, sure. I'm thinking maybe since we did backup, I'm certainly not going to try to sing and play the banjo at the same time because Earl didn't do that either. But maybe I should kick off just a normal tune and then play a couple rounds of backup. Maybe that would make sense since we've talked about it today.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cabin in Caroline, maybe? Okay. How's that?